Hey everybody, so quick announcement. There's not going to be a Christmas episode. This is the Christmas Eve episode, and it's going to be kind of freeform and actually probably pretty short. The reason why, say it with me everybody, I'm sick, right? You're like, Jason, you're sick a lot. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm realizing that's something that's happening as I get older. This is actually the same thing I usually have. It's an ear problem. So I actually finally have an appointment with the ear, nose, and throat doctor. I hear 100 people shut off the podcast. You're like, is he just going to talk about random stuff? Well, probably. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I have a couple questions for you guys, a couple of little announcements, but I think I need tubes in my ears because I always have this horrible ear pain, which makes it hard to talk and my tongue starts to swell up, so I have to constantly take Sudafed. But then I go, I'm feeling better. I don't have to take my medicine anymore. And then my tongue swells back up. So it hurts to talk, basically. And considering this is all talking, if this was a video podcast and you knew sign language, we could keep going. I actually, in college, that was my second language because I can't speak Spanish. I have a really small tongue. People always laugh when I say that. And then I show them. And they go, oh, wow, that's like a baby's tongue. How do you even swallow? I go, I don't know. I have a really small tongue. I have a small tongue and I have small hands. And short legs as well. It's very hard clothes shopping. This is the next 100 people shutting it off. You're like, this is utter nonsense. Where's a ghost? Are your pants haunted? No, I always have to. How long are my legs? I think they're like 29 inches long. Wait, that doesn't sound right. When I buy jeans or pants, I can't wear like a 32 length or a 34 length or big boy pants. I always have to get them hemmed or buy short people pants. But I'm not short, which is kind of weird. I just have short legs, small hands, and a tiny tongue. But, a small tongue and not a tiny tongue. But anyway, so I learned sign language. I was actually fluent in college. But, like anything, once you stop using it, I don't know any of it. I can do the alphabet, which is pretty much what a third grader can do at this point. But anyways, no, I want to tell you about some awesome stories we have coming up, kind of a teaser, because we're just going to have a regular week next week. I'm not going to do anything on Christmas or Christmas Eve other than this, which wasn't the plan initially, but I want to talk about some stuff real quick. First off, crazy breaking news. Remember I did that Steven Spielberg story recently about he was making a movie and it was about alien disclosure, and as I was making the episode, as I was recording it, they unexpectedly dropped the trailer. It just came out like in the middle of the day with usually they tell people, hey, the trailer's going to drop here. It's a big Spielberg movie. It's going to be attached to Avatar or whatever. In the middle of the day, they just dropped it with no announcement. It just showed up on YouTube. There's a conspiracy theory behind that. It's really interesting. We'll delve more into this next week, but just a teaser. We said on that episode, is there a real alien? Is there possibly real footage of an alien in that movie? Or is there a actual UFO scene in that movie? We don't know. The movie hasn't come out yet. But it was very odd that the trailer dropped not only in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, with no announcement. And the conspiracy theory out there, this is weird. And I want some time to dig into it, but I'm going to tell you that I usually don't do this because I'm always thinking, oh great, I say what I want to talk about and then I get killed before I can talk about it. And I'm not the guy who came up with this. I've seen this online. The conspiracy theory is that Steven Spielberg dropped the trailer early, and I honestly don't think the title of the movie was supposed to be Disclosure Date. That's a really bland title. And I said that on the episode, and I've been thinking about that. I think he had to make a decision that day to title the movie, because the trailer was coming out that day. And the conspiracy theory is Steven Spielberg knows a lot more than most people about aliens visiting Earth. And right now there's a cleanup operation. People are being killed for what they know. And the idea or the conspiracy theory is Steven Spielberg dropped that trailer early, and that is related to the bizarre string of shootings we had recently, where a man went to Brown University, seemingly targeted a young woman, and then shot a bunch of other people, then left. The FBI could not find him. A couple days later, he kills a renowned physicist 50 miles away. And then a few days after that, he is found in a storage unit where he killed himself. And the idea this is a conspiracy theory. We'll go more into it. I'll give you the names and the dates and all that stuff with the full episode. But the conspiracy theory is those guys, maybe even that young woman, knew things. And whether the shooter was an MK Ultra asset or a victim himself who was also liquidated and just everything blamed on him. The conspiracy theory is that spooked Spielberg to release the trailer early. He didn't want to get just killed before any of his movie could be seen. Because what's interesting, in the movie, we don't really know the plot, right? We just know the trailer. But in the trailer, there's a scene where a man is hooked up to this machine and he's able to control the actions of a woman in her home. Like he flexes his hand, she flexes her hand. So alien technology that can control other people's movements, possibly even enough to kill other people. Right? Okay, so it's a conspiracy theory. I came across it the other day, and I go, okay, we're going to talk about that. Because the Brown shooting and the physicist shooting was already odd enough. I can't recall a time we've seen that before. We've seen school shooters kill people before the school shooting, usually their family. But I can't recall a time where someone shot up a school, then left and was not found. That in and of itself is rare. Like Nicholas Cruz was found later that afternoon. He shot up this school, he killed 2 people and injured 8 others, and then disappeared. And then 50 miles away, kills a physicist who was working on allegedly experimental physics, like 0-point energy type stuff. Alien tech. Interesting conspiracy theory. We'll take a look at that next week. I'm really curious about that. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah, the tragedy. We've had so many tragedies this year, and it feels weird that I'm talking about this one in particular when we've had so much horrible stuff happen. But Rob Reiner, killed by his son. Rob Reiner and his wife killed by their son. That has now been linked, and again, this is allegedly, that has now been linked to an online cult called 764. And I've just started to kind of look into that. They're talking about that in the mainstream media now. And I'm vaguely aware of them. I've heard about them in the past, and I don't want to say they do this, they do that, because I'm not entirely for sure. But it's an online cult, apparently, that I've seen mentioned over the past few months, more and more. And it's possible they're saying that he was a follower of theirs or an adherent of theirs. Tragic story either way, for sure. To be killed by your own child. Horrible stuff. You're like, Jason, it's Christmas Eve, man. Yesterday you were lonely ghosts and all sorts of craziness. Yeah. I know it's Christmas Eve. Apologize. And I apologize for the weird edits. Those are my coughs I'm having to edit out. So we want to talk about that stuff next week. I want to do another live stream before the end of the year. We used to do a Christmas live stream, and I just don't have the schedule for that anymore. But I would like to do another live stream. I'll keep you guys updated on that. And then here's the thing. I'll put this to a vote. You guys seem to really like... Well, here's the thing you liked and the thing you didn't like. First off, the thing you didn't like, the Mucking episode. I got a lot of emails about that and YouTube comments being like, that's disgusting. That's the grossest thing you've ever talked about on this podcast. And I was a little surprised because I don't think that even ranks in the top 10. Now, maybe you're like, Jason, it was people being covered in big poop over and over again. Yeah, but we've covered way worse stuff, like just disgustingly worse stuff. All the cannibalism and the Nolos. I'll put all these episodes in the show notes to brighten your holidays. We've covered stuff that's way more disgusting, I think. That guy who had those testicles in a framed jar or whatever above his bed. That was a horrible episode. And I did 2 episodes on that guy. But anyways, I said in that episode, I go, if you think this episode's bad, the Christmas episode's going to be even worse. Well, now there's not a Christmas episode, technically. And some of you are breathing a sigh of relief. The episode still will come out, for sure. I am going to title the episode Worse Than Mucking. So that way people can be prepared or people can just skip it. But anyways, I think in a way it's worse than mucking. I was telling Sabine about it the other day. She goes, that's disgusting. That is disgusting. The mucking story she found particularly gross as well. But I was telling her about the second one. I didn't go into the amount of detail I'm going to go to on the show. And she's like, that's horrible. And I said, yes, but it's a story that needs to be told. And she laughed. She did laugh, but here's the thing. It does. I do think when you're hearing it, you're like, what? Is this his grand legacy? No, I think the story's disgusting, yes. But I think it has a point. It is a point that must be made in the grossest way possible. I should get a bunch of sound effects. I should get like a sound effect board for that episode. That's coming up. And then one last thing, and yeah, we'll wrap it up because I'm obviously degrading in the front of the microphone. I'm sweating and it's in the middle of winter. I don't even have a heater on. The Fight Club story you guys seem to really like. You guys really like that one. And here's the thing. I liked it too. I don't want to... Originally, I thought, well, maybe for a Christmas episode, I'll tell another one of my wacky adventures. And I go, no, I don't want to just, I don't want to use that as a crutch. I didn't plan to tell the Fight Club story. It was actually part of a larger episode, and I removed it for a time. But since you guys liked it so much, I think we may do bonus episodes. There won't be full episodes during the week, but something extra from time to time. But I'm going to put it to you guys. I'll let you guys vote on what you want to hear. Not Lost Summer. I know everyone's going to say Lost Summer. The thing with the Lost Summer story is although I was a participant, although I was involved in a lot of stuff, it's not my story to tell alone. There were other people involved, and, I just don't think that I can tell it. It's very interesting. It's actually quite fascinating and bizarre, but at the end of the day, I don't think that I can tell the story without consulting other people, and unfortunately, from what I understand, some of those other people have passed away at this point. So, that being said, Lost Summer is not on the menu. However, I'll throw these stories to you. What were the ones I was thinking of? I'm going to tell the story about my grandma and her bird. That's an interesting one, and it is paranormal, I believe. But I'll let you guys vote. I can tell the story about the time I was inadvertently roped into a smuggling operation, and I wasn't dressed for the occasion. You were not wearing a bulletproof vest? You're like, oh, I brought my gun, but no bulletproof vest. No, it's such a weird story. And actually, it's a story that Sabine said, don't tell that story. Don't tell that story. Don't tell that story. And I was like, well, it happened a long time ago. No harm, no foul. She's like, but Jason, that's not a good story to tell. But anyways, so that's up for a vote. I think it's entertaining. And, obviously I have to leave out a bunch of details. I won't change details, but I'll leave out a bunch of stuff. Because, that I was not a smuggler. I was not a smuggler at all. But I found myself at the front lines of a smuggling operation for an afternoon. It was I think it was interesting. I think it was an interesting afternoon. What was the other stories I was thinking about? I could tell. Is that the only other story I have? I mean, see, the thing is, I try to stay away from stories that make me like, oh, I'm a total badass. Like, yeah, and I stared this guy down and he walked away. That's not entertaining. That's kind of self-aggrandizing. I mean, I have those stories. Of course I do, because I'm such a badass, obviously. But, what's the point of telling a story and it's like, and then he walked back into the night, knowing he lost the staring contest. That was all it was. You're like, there's no drugs or guns? No, we're just staring at each other. I try to stay away from stories like that, stories that make me seem like a badass. There was that time where I was hanging out at the park. Again, it's kind of related to when I was hanging out at the park, and I saw this guy beat his dad so badly, I thought he murdered him, and I didn't know it was his dad. I thought it was just some bum, but his dad was a bum. It was weird. I already told that story, but that same night we were hanging out at that same park, the guy's all laid out on the ground. I'm like, oh man, I don't know when this guy's gonna wake up. Someone said, hey dude, the skaters and the punks are gonna fight the football team or something like that. We were there. We were already at the park. So we all looked at each other and we're like, yeah, dude. Now we were all long out of high school. All of us, even the youngest of us was maybe like 25. But, punks and skaters, those were the dudes we hung out with, and we thought they were going to fight this football team. So I was like, I did not say, let's go fight them. But again, when you're in those situations when everyone's like, yeah, let's go, you can't. See, this is where a lot of people get in trouble. I understand why you have a carload of people and one of them kills a guy, like from an altercation, and then everyone in the car is implicit in that. Because it's really hard to walk away. A rational response would be like, no, I don't feel like getting involved in a fight between skaters and punks and a football team. So I'm just going to go home. But the problem is that after that, you can never hang out with those people again, which you may be fine with. But two, you can't really hang out in that area again, because now you've kind of marked yourself as a coward or a punk, and not a good punk, not a Mohawk punk, but a punk like you're a loser. So, again, it's not the wisest decision, but you go, I like hanging out here. I like hanging out here. Obviously, their bums are knocked out. That's a little off-putting, but other than that, so you go, yeah, sure, whatever. And then this whole thing erupted where we were supposed to be in the back of this fight, because it was like 30 on our side, punks and skaters. There was about 30 of them. It was it's going to be a huge fight. And we were going to be in the back, right? I'm all cheering them on. I'm like, kill him. Oh, yeah, take out all your rage and stomp on that guy's face. No, you're not going to have us in the front lines. Well, so I get in the back of the group pushing people forward. It's like, no, that guy hit you. That guy hit you from behind. Be angry at him. Attack him. I'm walking behind like a huge group of about 30 skateboarders and punks. And then all of a sudden, one of them goes, no! So we're walking. I guess I'm telling the story now. We're walking. It's like 1 a.m. There's like 30 dudes in front of me. And I think I had Birkenstocks on, which you will see as a reoccurring in a lot of these stories. I'm not dressed for the altercation that's about to come. I'm wearing Birkenstocks. I think I kicked them off because we were running over to the melee. And I'm in the back, and I don't know none of these guys. None of these punks are skaters. I mean, I can tell that they're punks and skaters. They're not wearing football jerseys. They have skateboards. And I'm in the back, and then I hear a guy go, wait, no, they're coming from... This is a true story. They go, wait, no, they're coming from that direction. And I turn around, and I was in the front. I was supposed to be the guy with the typewriter in Saving Private Ryan, the guy who was just going to kind of be in the back and observe. Now all of a sudden I'm Tom Hanks and I'm staring down a pillbox, and it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, whatever, and we're in a parking lot of a park. It's off of Fair Oaks, if you know the area. It's where the Fair Oaks Library is. I can't believe I didn't give the exact location last time. The Fair Oaks Library is where these stories took place. It's a big park, so they have like the Renaissance Fair here every year. They have a bum beating contest. Here's the thing. I'll stop making jokes about that. No one complained, but I'm sure people quietly complained. They're like, dude, this hobo got knocked out. Jason's laughing. I'm not laughing that a hobo got knocked out. I find it just so bizarre. It was the guy, I almost said his name. What did I call him? Jack in that episode? It was Jack's dad. It was what made the whole thing bizarre. And that I thought he was dead, but he wasn't. So that makes it kind of funny. But anyways, I'm in the front lines now. And I just see a numerous mob of people walking towards me out of the darkness. And they were not football players. Let me tell you that. There was not a jersey among them. I found out later, somebody said this. I don't know if it's true. Somebody said, because we were like, dude, I thought those were going to be football players that we were going to be fighting. Or I was going to be standing behind as you guys fought them. And someone goes, oh, no. I don't know where you heard that from. And I was like, I don't know either. It was 2 a.m. We're all hanging out. It was sober, by the way. I don't drink. I definitely don't drink in public. He goes, no, I'm pretty sure there were norteños. I'm like, oh, well, I would have gotten in my car at that point. And I'll tell you one thing, no one would have blamed me. No one would have blamed me if I said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be in a fight between skaters and punks versus a Mexican prison gang. I think I'm good, and I think everyone would be okay with that. But anyway, so now I'm standing in the front. I got all these people behind me, and I'm watching. I don't know if they were norteños, but there was a lot of them. And they weren't football players. And I can see kind of the silhouette, right? And these people walking, remember that scene in Gremlins when all the gremlins are walking down the street? It was like that. They just emerged from the shadows. But some of them had bats. Some of them had pool sticks. Like, cute, what are the pool? You know, like, I'm playing pool with my stick. But they only had the bottom half, you know, like the heavy club part. And I told my buddy the story afterwards. He goes, so they took the time to take them apart? Who had the top part? Who did they give the little the little weak part of the pool stick to? You can get by that all day long. They give that to the junior members. This is going to be their first midnight fight. Then anyways, I mean, they're armed, basically. They're armed for melee combat. The people standing behind me have skateboards and chains and stuff like that. And I always thought this was very interesting. I tell this story a lot. Because this is just the way that you live. And again, I'm not a badass at all. As we're walking, I have 30 guys behind me, and I can't not walk forward. But as we're all walking, I'll be fair, I walked a little bit slower than I needed to. I did kind of try to blend in with the group, but I obviously was like a foot taller and way bigger than any of the skaters or punks. Remember in Fellowship of the Ring, when all the goblins and the cave troll come into that funeral home? Yeah, I was the cave troll. My silhouette was unmistakable. And we're walking forward, and that's when I hear from my side someone say, "Look out, he has a gun." And in an instant, I remember this to this day. This was such a fascinating... This was not the first time I'd been involved in a situation with a gun. But I just find it fascinating how my brain processed all this. We're walking, I'm mid-step, when I hear someone on our side says, "Look out, he has a gun!" And what goes through my head is one foot's in the air and it's ready to hit the ground. It's just like an instant thought. I think, I don't see the gun. That means it's not a rifle or a shotgun. That means it's a pistol. 11 to 17 rounds. There's 30 of us. The chances of me getting killed are very small. And by the time I came to that end of that calculation, my foot had hit the ground and my next foot steps up and I keep walking forward. Like, I did that mental math, right? There was obviously a chance I'd get blown away. There's obviously a chance, too, that you can be shot and paralyzed or shot and blinded or, shot and maybe you just have a scar or maybe have massive nerve damage. But within that moment, I made a assessment of the situation. It's dark. It's a handgun because I can't see it. There's not enough rounds for all of us. I instantly made the decision to keep moving forward because the decision to run was not a decision at all to make in that situation. A normal person would. A person who doesn't grow up in violent neighborhoods probably wouldn't be in that situation in the first place. But, yeah, I made that threat assessment. I figured the chances of me dying were extremely low, and the chances of me being shot, even though I was the biggest person there, it was still pretty low. Because it was so dark. And at that point, we keep moving forward, and that's when a guy comes. I remember I see kind of this commotion on our side, and the punk and skater side. I see a guy walk through the crowd, a young guy, and he pulls out a pistol, and now he's walking towards the group. See, we couldn't see the guy with the pistol on the other side, but our guy walks straight out of the crowd and pulls his pistol out and starts walking forward, and it is aimed at somebody that I can't see. And at that point, it was very interesting. Both sides stopped. They started yelling at each other now. "Yo, what's up, man? Come on now, we'll take you. Da, da, da. Da, da. The threat had been equalized. Now there was a gun on each side. See, I don't think they were norteños, looking back on it. And at that point, a car pulled up for me. Now, I mean, I'm not trying to make myself to be a sort of badass or anything like that, right? But people knew me in the area. And they knew I was in that situation, and they knew that they needed to get me out. So a car pulled up, and it was these dudes that knew me and I didn't know them. Apologies if you're listening to this episode, or I definitely didn't remember them. And then a dude that I did know, a good friend of mine, was in the back seat. It was him, his girl, and their dog. And then it was two dudes driving the car, and they go, get in, bro, get in. And somehow I fit in the back seat with a dog. I mean, no seatbelts, right? We weren't wearing any seatbelts. We definitely weren't worried about the cops pulling us over for that. There's an armed conflict going on. So I crawl into the back of this car somehow, and they're like, we're scooping you up, bro. We're scooping you up. Let's get out of here. And then we drove maybe half a block and went back to the part of the park where we were hanging out earlier. And so, I mean, the fight was going to go on maybe like 300 yards from where we were at, because we weren't done hanging out. It's not like we went home. The car just drove us about half a block away, and now we got more people hanging out with us, and now we're sitting out in the park. And the fight, what happened, and this is what thankfully happened. This, you know the area, it's a library. It's a library in the middle of Fair Oaks, California. People were calling the police right when they heard the yelling, before anyone talked about getting a gun, before people started yelling, he has a gun. There were already calls made to the police. And because it's Citrus, I don't think Fair Oaks police has their own, I don't think Fair Oaks City has their own police. I think they have to use Sacramento County Sheriff, but, they slow rolled it out. And by the time the cops finally drove through the area, everyone had dispersed. I think at that point, because what would generally happen is people would call the cops, but then people would shout outside of their house, dude, I've called the cops, just go home. Because at the end of the day, they just want it to end. They don't want to see anyone get shot. They don't want a big fight out in the middle of the parking lot. You call the cops, but then you say, just get out of here. I already called the cops. They're on the way. And that's kind of what happened. No blows were traded that night. No shots were fired. Everyone kind of scattered once they had heard that the cops had been called. They waited a little bit, right? Someone didn't say that and they all take off. A little bit of the group peeled away, but maybe a couple more minutes later, everyone left. And then eventually 2 cop cars come driving through the neighborhood. And there's nothing to see there. So, yeah, that's that was a story that I was like, oh, maybe I'll tell that one, but I ended up telling it now. So, yeah, I mean, I have other stories like that, but again, I don't know. I don't ever want to force them. I don't really want to, use them as a crutch. I don't want to overuse them, but I do think they're fun. So that was this one. Yeah, it's weird. I wrote down some notes. I go, oh, maybe these are stories I can tell. But some of the stories I don't want to tell because obviously they make me in a bad light. They put me in a bad light. I'm not going to tell a story where I'm the villain, which, I mean, allegedly probably happened. There's probably a lot of the stories I could tell that from someone else's point of view, I was the bad guy, right? You can't vote for any of those. You can't vote for any of those. One of them, I wrote down a note here. I said, getting phone back. What was that? When did I ever have a story involved getting my phone? Oh, yeah, I do remember that. It's a story about a time. It's not that great. It's a time this guy owed me money, and he was supposed to pay me. It was like $50. It was nothing, but it's the principle of the thing. It's not the amount of money that somebody owes you. It's how long they take to pay you back. They say, I'm going to pay you back on Saturday. And now it's Tuesday and you haven't paid me back. It doesn't matter if it's $50 or $500. You give them a couple more days and now a week's gone by, 2 weeks. See, that's the issue. It's not about money. That's why you always hear, dude, that guy got killed over $200. Yeah, and that sucks. That's sad. It's horrible that happened. But it's more than just that. Anyways, the guy owed me $50 and he was my downstairs neighbor. He was actually a good guy. But he owed me $50. So, I mean, maybe I'll tell that story. It's quite short, but I might tell that one later. So there's your votes. You can do the smuggling operation. You can do the telephone. I'll tell you this one. This telephone is like 2 minutes long. I could tell it right now, but again, my voice is kind of giving out. But anyway, so guys, yeah, I'm sorry it's been so sick recently. Maybe it's part of aging. Maybe it's part of the aliens beaming messages into my brain, making me think I'm sick. because I'm exposing the truth, but one of the two, or it could be 100 different reasons. I'm sorry for that. So we will be back next week. We're not taking a full week off or anything. We're just not going to have an episode out tomorrow. And I'll throw some intro music and outro music. Oh yeah, let me give a shout out, because I kept forgetting to do it this week, but it's been really cool. We've been playing the... You're like, yeah, Jason, nice shout out. It's at the ending of an episode that people shut off 20 minutes ago. What did I... Anyways, the people who did the cool Christmas tune for us. I've had it listed in the show notes, but it's from Hombres De La Cebolla, which I think means like brothers of the chicken or something like that. Brothers of the egg. Something. Originally I called them the Ball Boys or something like that. I didn't remember their name, but Hombres De La Cebolla. We're going to keep playing that song, I think, for the rest of the year. I think we'll run it through New Year's because I really like it and we didn't play it enough this year. But anyways, hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. I hope you guys spend a lot of time. I hope you guys find this very relaxing and peaceful. I hope you guys find this a very relaxing and peaceful time of the year. And I'll see you guys next week. I think we'll have some good stuff. If I die before then, it's because of that Steven Spielberg movie, just to let you know. If I die before then, they got me. They finally got me. But if I'm back on Tuesday, well, I'll be there to deliver the truth. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.